Hey, it's your boy Matt here. So, my video today is going to be about Child Protective Services in the Australian Capital Territory. Knowing I've worked with these people in different states and different roles, everything from disability support worker to positive behaviour support practitioner to junior psychologist, I have worked with these people in different situations. And the way things are done at Child Protective Services differs drastically across states. So I've worked with them in Queensland, New South Wales, and ACT. Now, I want to start with Queensland. So in Queensland, the attitude with Child Protective Services is that if there's an issue, the job of Child Protective Services is to try and come in and see if there's a way that they can mediate things, try and ease the problems. Because the idea is that, okay, there's a hiccup. There's maybe dad went to prison, maybe mum's got a substance abuse problem. But in general, the idea is to save the kid from having to go through foster care, because foster care is a hell in and of itself. When someone goes through foster care, they lose the continuation of family. They lose any kind of long-term communal ties, and that's a big thing. When they're adults, they're no longer going to have Christmases. They're likely not going to have Christmases. They're not going to have brothers and cousins. They're not going to have this prolonged family unit, which is often quite a beneficial thing. The only people I talk to these days are my cousins. All right, my nuclear family's complete fucking shit. Imagine if I didn't have that. And that's what these foster kids who grow up in states like the Australian Capital Territory, which I'm going to get to, have to deal with. New South Wales, neither here nor there, it's a bit more like Queensland, but the ACT, Child Protective Services in this state have a very bad name, and they've earned it. They've earned it, and I've heard it from multiple support coordinators and social workers who I've worked with here. The general consensus is what they will do is that they'll put so much pressure on a family which is in crisis. So dad's gone to prison, mum's got a drug problem, mum's slightly autistic, dad's having to work full time to support the autistic mum who also has a child who has autism level 3 who's non-verbal, who's throwing shit on the wall, and mum doesn't have any fucking idea how to deal with it because she's overwhelmed, because she's got issues herself. And what will happen is that Child Protective Services will get called in, and they get called in quite frivolously in the ACT because this is a very prim and proper place. There aren't the same levels of grey area here that members of the ACT have when it comes to controversial issues. This is an exceedingly middle class place, and in some ways that's beneficial, but when it comes to dealing with places with the lower class where really fuck shit happens, this is not a place where you want these middle class privileged assholes making decisions. They don't understand it, they haven't lived it. In places like Queensland and New South Wales, they're less ubiquitous, but in the ACT, everyone here comes from a fucking public servant family who's been here for a couple of generations or some shit. But what happens is that they'll look at these people, these vulnerable people, and they'll be like, this is no place for a child to get raised. And because everyone wants to be very protective of the children, because everyone gets, first of all, like there's a sympathy, but there's the other part, which is like, I'm protecting the kids! I'm being so morally respectable, I'm such a good person that it made my heart melt, me protecting them. This is the best fucking thing I could do. And really what they end up doing is that they really end up fucking the person's life, because instead of helping the family who's going through a crisis, they end up stealing the fucking kids away from it, destroying the family unit, destroying at least 3 people. So mum, dad, and the kid. Right? That's what happens when you take a kid away from their family. You're not just fucking with the kid who you're there to protect. You're destroying the people who are there whose hearts are in it. Right? And what's better, the people whose hearts are in it, who want to change, who want to have the support to better raise the kid, or or chucking the kid into the foster system where you've got a lot of people who've got, who say that they're in for it, but now they've got a kid who's in distress, who quite often has some neurodevelopmental disorder. Because remember, we're talking about the lower class here, right? There are structural things which often keep people in the lower class, and things like autism and ADHD and neurodevelopmental disorders are often things which do that. It's not just capital. Capital is part of it, but there are multiple layers to it. So these kids, you're taking them away from their communities, their networks, and you're chucking them in with another group where they might not even stick around. And often that basic family structure is far more useful and important to that kid growing up than to be around some group of middle class privileged assholes. And assholes is probably a little bit of a bigoted term. I'm capable of bigotry. Remember, I'm pretty fried out. I'd say very, very compassionate, very well-intentioned people, often incredibly saintly people who are doing, if I was a Christian, I'd say the Lord's work. So remember that I'm pretty fried out from my work as well. So not everything I say is coming from a place of respectability. Sometimes it is just me being chewed out. But we'll end up with these kids in these situations, and at the same time, I find this population here in Canberra, they'll do these strange things. Like they'll be so keen on these acknowledgements of countries. Like, I give credence to elders past and present. Like, I thought the stolen generation, that was a horrific thing. We just needed to let this culture and people group be. And it's not a case of like people who are having shitty situations speak. It's a case of supporting them. And what happens is that when you put child protective services in any person's life here in the ACT, instead of being able to come in and figure out how to support them, they usually are looking for a way to fucking steal their kids. And that's not normal. That's not how it works in other states. That's a very specific thing to Australian Capital Territory. And when I talk to, this isn't just my perspective of having worked in this system, this is the perspective of multiple social workers and support coordinators I've worked with. They are fucking terrible here, right? Like, it's a difficult job, but like, I have no issue saying, even though it's a difficult job, you guys are doing fucking satanic work, and fuck you guys. So in conclusion, if you see an issue with child protective services in the ACT, first of all, no, you didn't. Because when you call in child protective services here, you're likely just making the situation a whole heap worse. What you really want to be doing is you want to be working with that family and trying to connect them with a whole heap of different services. You want to be looking at places where they can get cheap food, such as Orange Sky. They know all this stuff. They work with homeless people, but they also know all the different services. There's an organisation called Tucker Box, which is downtown. I'm forgetting my suburbs here, but there's all these different organisations around Canberra who can help people who are having a bad time. The people who do not help people when they're having a bad time are Child Protective Services. You need to remember the class and caste background of this state, and it's not one which protects the vulnerable and lower class people. This is a place for the middle class. This is an exceedingly middle class community. They do not know how to work with people at the bottom and people who are facing very difficult situations.